days were rain.
Oh, gee.
You've been missing out on a ton.
Oh, yeah, I heard that, yeah. Yeah, I heard that.
I just have. It's gonna, yeah, I guess making up for last year. So,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, no, they take ours.
you see, they got that.
No.
To change the meening?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really. I asked her if she could. It was.
I agree, that's.
And we get some wood behind it. Every year
I don't mind.
I don't know, we got a pretty long.
You're probably thinking. I'm gonna try to talk to you. That's when I did this really good.
Of course, Yolo's doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
This is
It's okay with me.
agenda with all the supporting documents, if you want the hard copy of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I like that too.
Well,
I think I'm gonna start the meeting. I am gonna start the meeting now. So the meeting comes to order
so we.
and,
He's gonna sit here, you can't.
the first piece of business is simply the committee overview statement that we were presented with, and it, it clarifies a whole lot of things, what our responsibilities and duties are. And, are there any questions among the committee members about any of it? Yes.
Is there any significance, I saw there's 11 items on here,
Yeah.
in the order of these. I mean, I just noticed that school performance and report cards data was near the bottom of the list. I thought that might be more of a.
Oh, I don't know, Lee, is
We really honestly just brainstormed everything we could think of that would come to this committee and wrote it out in no particular order.
I think we tried to be mindful of, we have some guest speakers here, so those items came to the front of the agenda
Yeah,
because we didn't, that not all of the business items pertain to them.
Oh, I think Tony's talking about this document, right? Tony?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the agenda.
No particular.
No, Tony's talking about the agenda. You're talking about the
No,
agenda.
actually, I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding. Lee gets what I was asking. I was just curious about the.
It's just on the overview form.
Yeah,
He's just
yeah, okay.
questioning how, how they may have been written in.
Oh, I see, okay.
This was just literally us sitting down and thinking through any possible item and what it would relate to coming through this committee. So not in any type of ranked order of anything.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's just a long list of items that this committee would.
Yeah, it's just a laundry list of our duties and responsibilities. And it's a fairly lengthy list, but I'm glad I know what we're responsible for.
Yeah, it seems like quite a bit, and, I noticed the people non-discrimination on there. Again, just reading all that, equity, inclusion, again, I really want the district to move away from this DEI stuff. I feel like that's just a bad idea, this identity-based programming, and I'm not gonna support that. So I'm just.
Well, I don't know. You're not being asked to support it. I think it just comes with the territory.
Well, I'm just letting, I'm
Yeah,
just
right.
voicing my concern as a elected member of this board that a lot of our community thinks that's a bad idea, and we shouldn't be using that as a guiding beacon. I'm gonna be elevating student performance and achievement over everything.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
And,
your privilege.
Yeah, I guess, is this like a document that needs approval or what?
No.
I don't think so. No, this is just an informational piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'm just gonna always push our focus to be where it's gonna have the most impact. And I think that initiatives around DEI just waste time and don't solve problems. They actually create more problems. So that's my 2 cents on that.
No, there's the First Amendment, so.
Yeah, the reason it would be on here from our perspective is that there are several board policies that charge us to do the,
I mean, there's certain laws that require us to do
We
something.
just want to make sure that the committee knows that part of their responsibility is to know and understand what those policies are, and if there are issues, that relate to those policies, that they would come through this, this committee.
Right. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we have a proposal here, a pretty interesting proposal, it seems to me, that firefighter, the firefighter apprentice course that has a lot of advantages for the Manawha Public Schools and the students. I know there's people here.
Yeah.
Because the fire department is going to provide the qualified teacher to teach this course, and is going to also work through LTC to get it credit. So, Lee, do you want to give us some background on that?
Yeah, first of all, I'd just love it if our guests could just join somewhere here in an open spot. We have Chief Blazer, Assistant Chief Kranek, and Mrs. Longmire, Associate Principal at Lincoln. We're just very excited about this opportunity. It's literally been years in the work, and I'll let the chief kind of give the background on that, and then I'll just kind of fill in some of the logistics, and Laney's here to answer any questions in regards to programming. We have things fleshed out pretty well, but we'll just start with this chief, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, first off, I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak this evening. Is like Lee had said, this started back pre-COVID, I think it even was, that we first had this meeting. When we were experiencing some recruitment and retention issues within the fire rescue department. We reached out to some of our peers that began a program inside the local high school, more or less being able to train people and prepare them for after high school, of getting into a technical college system, if you would, and pursuing the career of a firefighter paramedic. So our hope here is, and with the cooperation of Lee and Lincoln High School, is that we're gonna try to get ourselves into high school a little bit more. Unfortunately, with the line of work we do, we really can't take advantage of youth apprenticeship program, like many of our peers in the trade industries do, just because of some of the hazards that are involved. But this opportunity of bringing it to the classroom can really help us prepare that student for some of the things that they may not realize that the profession requires of them as they're going through the process. It'll give them a good basic knowledge of what firefighting is, along with some hands-on, and more importantly, some college credit as well, hopefully moving forward with the cooperation of LTC as well.
And the vision is to eventually add the firefighter 2 course as well. Students who have LTC credits in firefighting can then volunteer on local volunteer firefighting stations, such as Silver Creek and some of the surrounding area departments. So we also see this as an advantage for kids who, may be interested in this, to get some experience working in those, hamlets of volunteer opportunities as well. And the real neat thing about this is really a great example of how partnerships can be made, with working together. So, as the chief pointed out, one of the barriers for teaching a class like this at Lincoln High School is we don't really have anyone on staff eligible to teach firefighting classes. What's great about this is, in our partnership with the Manitowoc Fire Department, they're gonna have someone come in and do the instructing really on our behalf, sign up through LTC in an agreement where the curriculum aligns, and our students will get the credit that they deserve for taking the classes. In addition, we're also hoping, once, if we're so lucky to have this opportunity approved, to get it off the ground for this upcoming school year. We've already asked some counselors to look into students who have indicated in their Zello accounts that they're interested in public service, in particular fire and safety, as a career path. With that, we will also be extending an opportunity for our friends at the parochial schools in our area to join this class as well. We'll send notice, if this goes through, we'll send notice to our friends at Lutheran High School in Roncalli. Being that this is really a partnership where, resources from the city are being allocated, we want to make sure that, we're going to share that opportunity with all kids, in Manitowoc. And we're really hoping, we always look for these partnerships also. A benefit to the firefighters is that they're going to get a chance to develop relationships, meet these kids, learn, what their strengths are and, hopefully bring them, maybe along for an opportunity someday in a career. And from the school's perspective, it's several things. It broadens, once again, our scope of, really career-related opportunities that we can get kids college credit at, LTC, as well as, it's quite an opportunity to have an elective like this in a high school, that most don't have. Mostly because they, like us, wouldn't have someone to teach it. So this is just a great example, I think, of, why we're such a special community.
Well, and it's not gonna cost us anything either.
Well,
I mean, a little bit, $4,500.
It'll cost us some materials.
Yeah.
And some equipment.
Yeah.
And some of it will be recurring. But honestly, it's quite minimal, on the investment, especially what we may get in return.
Yeah, I see it kind of as a rising phoenix in a slightly different context, but, I really think it's like you say, it's a very good community cooperation program, yeah.
So, we would recommend approval.
Is there a motion to approve the proposal?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there discussion?
Yeah, I just want to be clear, what Mr. Grass just said wasn't completely true. So it's $4,500 is the initial setup.
Yeah.
So that would be taken on by the MPSD to supply $2,000 worth of textbooks and materials and $2,000 worth of equipment, and then $500 worth of field trips. And then there'd be a reoccurring cost of $2,500 every year. However, MPSD would not be incurring the instructor cost. So that's an amazing opportunity for the citizens of this county, as well as we can hopefully foster the relationships between the volunteer firefighters within this county as well, because we are in dire need of young men and women that want to be involved in helping keep our community safe. So this is a great idea. Just there is a cost, and it's a value at the moment, and hopefully it can be built to the future for more people to have this opportunity.
Yeah, sounds great.
So the motion is, I don't know oh, go ahead.
I just want to say to those of you that have been working on this, thank you for not giving up. Because it's easy after a year or two to just go, but you hung in there, so it's
Yeah.
appreciated.
So I don't know, who takes the
We're
minutes?
taking minutes.
I got it.
Oh, you're taking minutes, okay. So the motion is for this committee to recommend to the full board approval, certification, approval, et cetera, of this proposal.
Of a course, yeah. and
Yeah, of this
firefighter
proposal, yeah.
Principals, part one,
Okay, are we ready to vote?
yes.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Okay. Well, it's after the horse is out of the barn. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm really excited that our students are gonna have this
Yeah, I
opportunity.
think so too, yeah.
Lots of opportunities.
That's cool. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
That's what I thought.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Hey,
Thanks, Lane.
Go
absolutely.
ahead and check the rest of the building so long as you're here. Write it up, blame it on me.
All right, the nursing plan update. So this is Katie's stuff.
Yep, your approval I believe in January came for our original emergency nursing plan. It's something that we have to bring forth to the board on an annual basis. Following the last few months of some additional research about some provisions that area school districts have in our county, we felt that it would be in our best interest to revise our emergency nursing plan just in one spot that you approved in January. So I'm going to invite Jenny Hins up because she'll be much more capable of answering any of your questions. Thanks so much for being here, Jenny. Jenny and her team, are constantly making sure that we have really just the utmost best care of our students in place for all of the students in the MPSD. And part of that, I'll draw your attention to letter H under, I think it's section 2, I'm correct, Jenny? Yep. Oh, section 3, medication administration, letter H.
Okay.
So it is an addition to our original plan. There will be, we are hoping to have approved tonight stock naloxone in our buildings for emergency purposes.
So this has been something that has been in the law for the past 5 years, actually, that schools can obtain naloxone to be used in the case of an overdose. I would say that typically those first couple years that it was approved, it was more college campuses that were moving forward. And then things slowed down with the pandemic, but most school districts are obtaining naloxone and having that available in the event that there's an overdose. I think that a lot of times for schools that we're looking through the lens of like addiction, and that certainly is a possibility for students, staff, or people visiting our buildings. But we are looking also through the lens of just overall safety. When we think of our elementary buildings, we've had students that come with medication that is not their own, that they found in parks and bring it to school. We do have a lot of visitors. So even through the lens of like grandparents that are coming to sporting events that may have taken medication incorrectly, perhaps they just had surgery. So that's the lens that we're looking through. Many of our other districts in the area have already been doing this for a couple of years. Two Rivers, Denmark, Sheboygan, all of Sheboygan County actually. So we're looking for obtaining this in a little different way than some of the other area schools are doing. So many of the other schools have in each of their buildings like a box that's hooked up to it's Wi-Fi hooked up, and anyone can open the box and they can obtain a free dose of naloxone, and then they can also obtain just information about area resources regarding addiction. That is one possibility. We were looking more through the lens of wanting to do something a little bit differently. We were wanting to have our doses secured in our AEDs, which alarm anytime they're opened. In the event that someone did overdose, they would be likely not breathing. They would need our resources with our AED, and we have teams of people in each building that are trained to be able to do this, these type of services, in addition to nursing. But we have 3.8 nurses, so there's not a nurse in every building at all times to fulfill that. And so we were just wanting to move forward with that. Questions?
Expiration date on the medicine?
It's typically about 2 years, and previously when we had looked at this, it was a little cost prohibitive because initially you needed a prescription, and we work with Dr. Green. He's read through all this and approves all of these changes as well, the local pediatrician. But what really brought this to the forefront was our health department is able to get it for free for us at this time. So there's not really gonna be a cost component. There might be about maybe $45 per school just for us to get proper labeling so that people realize because there's several of our buildings, our largest buildings have multiple AEDs, and we would only be keeping a naloxone kit in certain AEDs. We wouldn't have it in every one.
Have we had to use anything like that?
Yeah, it has been used. Our SRO was carrying it. Again, they're not in every building. It was used last year at Washington by an SRO, and it didn't, at that time, it wasn't a overdose that would have been helped by that. It was actually a seizure, but the officer wasn't sure or not if it was, so he had used a dose of naloxone that he has through the department.
So this is for, if I'm understanding it right, like hard drug use, basically, right?
Yeah, it's for opiates, so you're right, heroin, fentanyl, medication, or drugs like that, but also prescriptions. So, someone who's taking hydrocodone, or maybe they're not taking it correctly, or Percocet, or some of those prescription medication overdoses.
Is it highly addictive, the actual medicine?
Yes, yes.
How big of a problem is that in our community with kids that are school age?
It definitely is an issue. I'm really thankful that I haven't had a need at this point there in my daily practice at Lincoln High that I've needed to be able to administer it, but I think that day could come. And so it's just mainly about being prepared for that.
The SRO avenue, at least that's a human person that we can kind of monitor with having them in you know what I'm talking about, the units that are.
Yes.
I understand that you're saying there's a security system that goes off when that, is there, and then you would say you try to limit the amount of, what are they called? What are they, automatic? AEDs, yeah.
External defibrillator.
So how many are you thinking, one at each facility?
I'm thinking I had one at each facility with the exception of Lincoln. I would want to have two at Lincoln probably just because of the sheer size of the building. And when there's an emergency, it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're, you know, over on one side of the building and the problems on the other side. Even if you're really running quickly, you can lose a lot of time that way.
So you kind of thought about the security of those and you feel confident at this point that you could keep it to know if it was ever opened or tampered with?
Yes, and there isn't a, like, if naloxone is used, like the example I gave where our police officer was suspecting a possible overdose on a student, and it wasn't an overdose, so administering the naloxone caused no harm to the student in the way that the medicine works.
Yeah.
But yes, I do feel that we'd be able to do that, and I've discussed this with our SROs, and they're in support of it as well, because they see in the whole community that there's just more calls related to drug addiction. If our firefighters were here, I think they'd probably say that as well, that they're seeing just more of those calls.
And then maybe you'd put it on like a routine that you would check those units to make sure that they're functioning correctly, you know, that they weren't tampered or opened at all.
Yes, that would definitely be.
That's my biggest concern, obviously, security of the automatic defibrillators. So that would be tampered with, and then somebody stole the stuff inside, and then you find out 3 months later that it's gone. That's obviously my biggest concern. But a human, you have accountability to the SOR that, hey, it's gone. Well, then obviously we have a bigger problem, but that's why I like having them have it. But I understand having the ability for a trained professional to be able to go into that and then be able to use it when an emergency makes sense, as long as we can secure those.
Yes, and I believe we can.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I don't want what I'm about to say to be taken too flippantly, but my view of it is, it's like flood insurance. You hope you never use it, but boy, you can't afford not to have it. And when you look at what we've seen in the news today, the power of some of the stuff, all you need is a parent's friend, a cousin, somebody uses a baggie that had illicit drug in it, and you can get a level of dosage to a child that is quite serious. It's actually happened in the United States, and it's terrifying. But the last thing we want is not to be able to take the proactive measures we need to ensure that they get the proper medical attention to solve what's a crisis. That's all.
Yeah, good. Any other discussion or questions, or is there a motion?
I would just say in the last district I was, small rural school, we almost lost somebody from an overdose. And it was, and we didn't find out until, really the next day because of confidentiality of what happened, but, ambulance taking them away and, just feeling how unequipped we were,
Yeah.
For the situation, so.
I will say that the nursing team will do extensive training with the people who would be administering it as well, so that they would feel confident on how to recognize this, the actions to take, and that's done on an annual basis. But as we said, we really wanted to bring this to the forefront because we train all year long, but at the start of the year is really when our bulk of the training is, and I think that kind of sets everyone out to the right start of the year if we can just, instead of adding it later, retroactively. There was one other small change, is it okay to bring up? Okay, there was one other small change that was in this, the emergency nursing services plan, and that was just a small change related to our field trips.
Oh, okay.
So emergency nursing services plans for nursing services throughout the school day, but also for all extra co-curricular activities. And so we're starting to notice that we're having, for our extended field trips, so our field trips for grades 8 and up, we're proposing that the district provide over-the-counter stock meds with written parent consent. And the example that I'll give you is, we recently sent a group of 44 students from the high school to Chicago for a few days. And we had over 63 bottles of meds that went with a chaperone to be administered. Not all of them, but many of them were over-the-counter medicine. And so as part of medication safety, we feel like with some RN discretion, depending on the length of the trip, and as long as it was 8th grade and older, we'd like to provide acetaminophen, ibuprofen, cetrizine, also known as Zyrtec, a motion sickness med, and some chewable antacid that parents could opt in to administer. That way, we're only sending 5 bottles of medication along instead of so many things. And so that's just a safety piece that we added as well, and Dr. Green agreed that that seemed prudent.
So that's number 9, right?
It is under section 4, field trips number 9, yes.
Okay. Any discussion on that before we go?
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
EpiPens, what's the status of the district with EpiPens, the cost?
Yeah.
We have stock EpiPens. We actually led the county about 8 years ago. We have a protocol for that, and there's EpiPens in each buildings as well as the school forest. So if someone displays their first allergic reaction, we're able to follow the protocol. And I used that twice this year at Lincoln, and I'm quite certain it saved those kids' lives.
How long do those last?
Those last about 18 months, and we're able to get those at no cost as well through a grant program.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Tony?
Do we have anything under this plan that would cover like choking or anything like that?
Yes, we do. So this plan is, also references something called the WISHES protocols. And that's, it's like a protocol where there's an algorithm for everything that could possibly go wrong health-wise when a nurse is not in the building, and it does go over those types of procedures like choking or headaches or anything you can imagine. Also, in many of our buildings, there's several people who have taken first aid and CPR classes that include choking that are conducted by our nurse team. And we usually typically at all the elementary schools, we do go over choking and practice things with choking for all the people that do like lunchroom supervision as well.
So do the staff know CPR, or do they have like de-chokers, or how do they handle that?
They do the Heimlich maneuver for choking, and then if the victim would become unconscious, then they move into CPR, but still doing an abdominal thrust to look for the item. So we don't use any choking devices in the district. And it's all done via the CPR classes and the first aid classes that are conducted. We have hundreds of people who we train every year. In every site, including like our MSC, where we don't have students, our central office, we're going to be doing a class in June here again as well.
There's a couple of things that I, don't have any much to do with the presented document, but it seems to me that school district as large as Manitowoc is probably understaffed in terms of RNs. Is that something that anybody's contemplating making a request onto the personnel committee? And the other thing is that there's a statement here where custodial staff is supposed to come to the rescue, but there's no requirement that they have any training in respiration or first aid, which seems to me, especially in off hours, they may be the only employees on the. Wouldn't it be wise to make a recommendation that custodial staff be trained to take care of those emergencies?
We could make it a requirement. Right now, it hasn't been a requirement, and we invite them to the multiple CPR classes that we have every year. And I would say maybe half of them have chosen to do that,
Oh, okay.
but not a requirement. I did have a little bit of data just because I thought it was a little interesting when you talked about staffing. I don't know if this will be surprising for anyone or not, but we do run how many visits that we see kids. And so this year we have 29,198 office visits of students, which is up 4,000 from last school year. And
Up 4,000 from last year? Oh, my God.
yeah,
Why do you think that's happening?
I think that kids have a lot of health problems. I've been an RN here for 12 years. I was at Aurora for 15 years before that. And I think there's many factors that go into it, but I just think every year we're seeing more kids who are diabetic, more with very serious allergies, a lot of them very young, just some complex health problems for sure. And that just seems to be increasing and increasing.
Yeah, it sounds like we need to talk more about this whole area, so. But that's not on the table at this point, so, but, you have my interest for sure. But is there a motion to recommend the revised,
Emergency or something.
what's the name of, what's the nursing service plan? Yes, to the entire board.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My sincere thanks.
Thanks, Jim. All right. Next on the agenda is the library plan proposal. It's simply a proposal that they're gonna be planning. I don't know, is anybody here to speak for that? Okay, good.
You mind if we just stand? Is that okay?
No, not at all. That's good.
No, you're fine. I'm Trish Saville. I am the library media specialist at Wilson Middle School.
I'm April Bach. I'm the library media specialist at Lincoln High School. Katie Barris. I'm the library media manager at Monroe Elementary School.
Oh, cool, good.
So I believe you have the link to our plan.
We do.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background, the Wisconsin Common School Funds was established in 1848. It's a part of our state's constitution. That is what serves as our primary funding source for the school libraries. So to guide our library program and plan to appropriately utilize those funds, we've developed the long-range plan, which you're looking at right now. The Wisconsin Library Future Ready framework that we used in developing this plan outlines the tools, resources, and practices that are necessary to meet the evolving needs in our library and in support of the district's literacy initiatives.
So to make the plan itself, the library media specialist team, which is me, and then Trisha at Wilson, and then Sue Ann, which is at Washington. We participated in the CISA 7 library plan workshop. It met 4 times throughout the school year. Each session walked us through specific components of the plan, and then it gave us homework in order to help create and plan our goals. So we used that Future Ready framework that Trisha talked about to analyze our library program. We identified both our current practices, some celebrations, and then opportunities to grow. We also met as a K-12 library team to discuss our program and then possible areas of growth to make those goals.
And then how our library plan goals will relate to our success for our reading initiatives. No matter our literacy initiative, our goal is to have a book selection guideline and a collection development plan that will help our libraries foster a love of reading. The learning in our classrooms can be supported by having materials that coincide with our reading goals. Creating a well-established plan to have our library stocked with current and relevant materials will support our students' success in their education. We hope to create a similar routine as classrooms by establishing a scope and sequence for media instruction. This will help support our students by encouraging them to take responsibility and action in our libraries. From learning the parts of a book to how to research a topic essay, learning these essential skills will foster a love of learning that can expand to all corners of their education. And our final goal of providing regular training for our staff in databases and technology will give the support needed to integrate our classrooms into a digital world. Our students are immersed into a digital world every day, starting at a very young age. By teaching and training our staff to utilize our technology and helping them feel comfortable using our databases, they will find better ways to teach our students, which will result in a happy and healthy learning environment. And our next steps going forward is for the board to approve of our plan, and then that library plan will get submitted to DPI on WISE admin.
Could I ask, is there a plan in existence now that this will replace? This is all new territory, huh?
We
Okay.
were, well, we're out of compliance, frankly.
Yeah, right.
We haven't had one in a while. And if I just may say that, you know, not only the ladies who are here, but our entire library team working towards this year, I thought was really special because I felt like, gosh, this may take us a little bit longer, but you know, they went to the sessions, they led the conversation, they created these goals that we will be able to track our data on and really try to work to support, you know, the learning of our students at a high level, especially around literacy and a love of reading and learning. So I just want to say thank you to them and their leadership as well as their entire team because this was truly a collaborative effort and we will hopefully with your support be able to now have this strategic plan in place for our library system, which will need to take place every few years and we'll stay on it. I think if you think about you know, one of our core values being collaboration, you know, we want to make sure that we're using these goals and measuring their success to set us up to make even maybe farther reaching goals in the future. So I commend the team for the work they've done on this. And I just think it's, you know, it'll be really great to also not only have it approved in a DPI vault somewhere, but more importantly, at work in every
really
one of our
works,
schools,
yeah.
right? Strategically working towards a vision
Right.
where all kids can learn at high levels, especially in the area of reading.
Yeah, it seems to me it's, well, you're president of the library board, how you used to be at one point. And it seems to me like, yeah, plans like this are fundamental. Who all is engaged in the planning?
There is a library media manager or library media specialist at every building.
Okay,
So we all had a part in it. We're all living it, breathing it. The 3 library media specialists have kind of divided up the elementary school libraries because we're the specialists, so we have
sure.
more of the formal training. So that way we can provide supports to the media managers, although they could probably run circles around us with all they do in an elementary school. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I'd second
definitely
what Lee said
collaborative.
in terms of appreciation for you taking this on.
For sure.
And it's due to come out, I don't know, maybe Chris will still be on the board by then, but 26, 27, the end of 26, 27? Okay. Along the way, could there be kind of,
We could do an annual update.
yeah, could you do an annual update?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that would be good. Tony?
What protocols do we have in place? And maybe I missed it, or maybe it's part of the plan, but is there anything that would prevent sexual contact or contacts from entering the libraries?
Well, there's a policy on 9130 that deals with challenging material. But you want more than that?
Well, I'm not familiar with that policy, but I did have a concerned citizen reach out to me with the book that I verified is available in the library today. It's called All Boys Aren't Blue. And the content in it is pretty disturbing. So if we're gonna be putting together a long-term plan on the library and how we can make the library a great tool for our students, which I would like to do, I think we should also take a close look at that existing policy and really understand how that book got approved to get in the library. I mean, some of the language in there is pretty obscene.
Okay.
And
Well, you can file a complaint, and there's a procedure that so the policy is 9130. I attended a session at the WASB convention, and they said, look, you know, there's an increase in people being concerned about the material being adopted and contained in libraries. And it's important to have, a civil response to that and to proceed in an orderly and rational way to deal with it. And I think that any citizen has access to this process.
I also would, if I may, I think if you're looking at their first goal, the team to create a K-12 book selection guidelines.
Yes, exactly right.
Collection development plan that supports our district literacy initiatives. That would be, that's one of the first priorities for this team to do. Because we don't currently have that in place, to my knowledge. And so we want to make sure that we have the proper fences in place and the guidance to help our librarians in their selection process, but also, as a district, when we're spending common school funds, we have to meet criteria that is laid out very clearly around how those funds can be utilized as well. So on multiple ends of the spectrum, it's important that we have this plan in place with the right guidelines. Typically what will occur in most districts is that once this is developed, those guidelines become administrative guidelines of the policy you're referencing.
That's right.
So that everything can be tied in together. So there is a definite recognition by our librarians that what you're talking about needs to be addressed.
Selection guidelines, yeah.
Correct.
And currently we don't have them, and so it goes to the, kind of the.
So that's what brings me to my point. I just want to say thank you for everybody being here today and Mr. Tennis for being here, because you are holding the accountability line now. You're trying to do something that's been forgotten for years. So like, I know we kind of I don't brush up on it, but I'm bringing it up because it's important, because in the past, this wasn't done. And now you guys are standing before the school board saying, hey, I want to be held accountable, and that's what we need. And I thank you for doing that and putting in the hard work. And thank you, Mr. Tennis, for doing this, because this is what we need to have, so that we have the checks in place. And obviously, this wasn't done 2 years ago. So there's obviously a gap. So we call it PC, we call it improvement plan. But obviously, there was not being done. So I thank you for being here, and I thank you for holding yourselves accountable to be great librarians, to do what's right for our children.
So, if I may, Leah, if I understood you right, action step 1 is geared towards addressing that?
The goal, first goal, yep. Under goals of the plan. So there's a link at the top of that memo. I have it up here on the screen as well. It's kind of hard to read because it's not very big, but by the end of the 26-27 school year, the Manitowoc Public School District Library Media Team will create K-12 book selection guidelines and a collection development plan that supports our district literacy initiative.
So I guess with updates annually, obviously, or maybe semi-annually,
Sure.
that's how you would gain trust of the public.
Well, what we would do is, we would utilize, or I would utilize as the person sort of facilitating this with this team, is that in my director report, written report, when this is addressed and we have a draft, I would share it with you.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to see that goal's kind of vague, right? And I just, honestly, are you familiar with this book that I brought up? Are you guys familiar with this book?
Yes.
Oh, have you read it, actually? Okay, I mean, the reason I bring this up is it's pretty disgusting, right? I mean, maybe I should just read part of it out loud, just so you guys understand what our students have access to.
But that's not relevant to what's.
Oh, it is relevant if we're making.
Well, it isn't relevant.
Hey, if it's
This is
available-
about,
if it's available
this is about a
publicly, then
process
then
of
it should be in a
development.
public meeting.
it's not about the content.
Hey, I have the floor, okay?
Okay.
He reached his hand down and pulled out my dick. He quickly went to giving me head. That's just one excerpt.
But that doesn't have anything to do with it's under discussion.
I'm just saying, this book's in our library right now.
I know, I understand
look,
that,
curious-
I'm just trying to keep on task here.
Well, we're talking about the library, right? We're talking about.
We're talking
We're talking about. a plan for the
making a
library.
plan,
A plan for the library which removes books like this. That's what I'm suggesting. And what I'm suggesting further is if we're gonna go and ask the community to fund a referendum, there's gonna be a big segment of our community that's not gonna be crazy about pouring money into a district that has crap like this in library.
Right, so you could bring that up at a board meeting and say, in the process of making a plan for the library, especially on guidelines for selection, I wanna say, this is what I think it should contain. But that's not what we're talking about now. That's a separate thing.
I don't see it as a separate thing if we're making a long-term plan for the library. What I'm
We're
saying
not
is
making
we
a
have to
long-term
do.
plan. You can,
We're approving it.
we're approving the
Or
process of
maybe we aren't
making
approving
it.
it,
We're
depending on-
approving the process. We're saying, gee, yeah, we think this is a great idea, go at it. And I think that in terms of content and philosophy, the board will have every opportunity that it wants, any board member to weigh in on that. Not in the planning process, but certainly to provide instructions to the people who are doing that process.
Well, yeah, I'm weighing in right now, and what I'm suggesting is I would like to see this plan more clearly state that we're gonna really look at the process for approving content, and we're gonna get rid of this crap. I don't want this crap in our district.
If I could,
Yeah.
I have 13 years' experience as a library media specialist, only 5 here in Manitowoc. But book selection guidelines are the whole process of determining what materials will be available in our libraries. So with respect, that's kind of what we're saying we're going to do. That's what has to be developed and outlined. We're not saying, if you want to challenge that book, you certainly can, and that is in place.
That
And
isn't,
you certainly can challenge that book, and we'll go through that process. That's, in my 13 years, that's what we have done when people have brought a book to
right.
our attention, and we've had, we file the paperwork, a committee's developed, and we go through that whole process. With the book selection guidelines, there's kind of the missing link. That's what we are trying to develop, to say, okay, here are the criteria, here's what we need to do. The process that we're doing, and that we're doing it the same in every single library, so that there's a process in place to select those books, as opposed to.
And I'm just suggesting, maybe we, as part of that process, maybe we could search out certain words, like some of the words that were used here, right, that would probably not be appropriate for adolescent children, right? So that's what I'm getting at, is I don't want this stuff in our schools.
So currently our
So
book
let's-
selection, we look at age appropriateness, and we look at several different, there's Kirkus, there's School Library Journal, there's School Library Connections, there's several different criteria that we look at to make sure that the materials that we purchase for the library are age appropriate for children.
So how did that get through? I mean, is that appropriate for?
I have not looked at the book, I don't know.
So obviously the process is broken if the people that are running.
Well, there's no policy right now.
Well, there wasn't one. That's the whole point.
There's no
Okay, well,
policy
that's what I'm
right
saying. So if we're making the policy, I would like the policy to catch stuff like this, so that we're not just blindly
That's the
approving
goal.
it and then waiting for someone to find it and then complain about it.
Correct, that's the goal of it.
That's the whole, is to get ahead of this.
Is to prevent the need to have.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of,
the
it just,
complaint come
it's just
first.
not clear. That's, I guess, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, but when I read that document, it's not clear that it's gonna prevent that, right? It says it's gonna
But-
align with
but-
the literacy goals.
But Tony,
If you're concerned.
when the plan is done, then the board gets to vote on it, and they say, we don't like that process, we want this and this and this. But
I'm giving them
we
some
don't-
guidance on the plan, dude. That's
what
isn't that
committees
why
are
they're bringing
for.
it to us? Like, here's what we're working on. What do you think?
Okay, all right.
I'm just
but we
telling you,
can't-
eventually it's gonna go before the board.
So you're just
So
doing this
before it
as
goes to the board,
information.
I'm asking you guys to please look at it. I think I've expressed my concerns with the content that I came across, and I would like to see something to prevent stuff like this from getting into our libraries.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is all informational, we're not voting on this, we're
No,
gonna,
this requires approval.
well, yeah,
Plan
go
requires
ahead,
approval.
you go ahead.
What
with
I,
the
what I
planning
was gonna
process.
say is, knowing that this is an important piece and that there's interest in this, one of the things that we can do is when the guidelines are crafted in a draft form, we'll bring it back to this committee for it to review.
Okay.
all I want to hear is that the processes to prevent this in the past weren't there. And that's an admission of
Yeah.
fault in the past. And we're gonna try to fix it. Yeah, we're gonna fix it and we're gonna bring it back to the board. And that's what I'm hearing. It just, however,
Yeah.
the truth is that it wasn't done. So now we're gonna retroactively have to fix some things. And that's what the public was mad about. And that's why he's voicing it. I mean, he's not trying to grandstand, Carrie. He's just trying to be honest with what's going on. So thank you, everyone. But I think he made his point quite clear.
Well, I think he made his point quite clear, but, you know, that's,
But I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm gonna talk one more minute and I'll be shut up. What you're saying is that you can have, there's a process to report a book, but that's already too late. It should have been caught before. And she's admitting to that, he's admitting to that, but it's real hard to get books out once they're already in. So obviously for the betterment of all the students, it'd be age appropriate, and that's what Mr. Tennis is saying in goal number 1. So when we get the report back, obviously, hopefully that'll be incentivized. Thank you.
okay.
So I don't know if you want to make a motion to approve.
Yeah, is there a
depending on,
motion to,
uh,
to,
To approve the MPSD
Yeah.
library plan? Also move.
yeah, okay. Is there a second? I can second it,
You betcha.
yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye, aye. All those opposed? Okay. Well, it still can come to the whole board. In terms of, even though it's not and even though it doesn't come with a recommendation from this committee, it still can be on the agenda.
You may bring it forward as a minority report.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Doesn't guarantee Tom Cruise will be here.
Oh.
I know, it's disappointing.
Anyway, we appreciate what you're doing, yeah, and for you coming in. Okay. Behavior plan, that's the next thing, yeah. Katie?
And I apologize, I'm suddenly not feeling super well, so I'm gonna power through. But so we've had many conversations this entire school year about challenging student behaviors. We've heard from principals, we've heard from classroom teachers, we've heard from union members, we've heard from community members. So the narrative around challenging student behaviors has been loud and prevalent for the entire school year. And though there are many things that happen on a regular basis through professional development, through support of different personnel, our team thought that it would be nice for you all to see the plan for next year so that when people are coming to you with questions and when people are saying, are they doing anything? You have information to share with them about, yes, we are in fact doing many things about it. So something that I shared with the board this school year was that we had partnered with a really phenomenal woman by the name of Katie Tennyson, who serves as a behavioral specialist for CISA 7. She came and conducted a building audit and spent a full day on all of our building sites with the exception of Lincoln High School. We just ran out of time in the school year. She spent a day talking with students, talking with staff, talking with building administrators, talking with our solutions teams, and the people that are committed to supporting building behavior plans and academic and behavioral interventions, and helped us identify some gaps. And she did identify some gaps. She identified some inconsistencies in classroom expectations and classroom management practices, and some inconsistencies in how we are supporting students when they have had a suspension, and what happens after the suspension, and how are we trying to keep kids from being repeat offenders and things. So this plan lays out basically what our goal will be after Katie's work and how we're going to continue to support staff and students in order to address some of these challenging behaviors. So one thing that you'll hear a lot from a classroom perspective in when we're talking about interventions and systems of support is you'll hear things like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. we're gonna work this summer to define those different tiers. Basically, that means what level of support are students receiving, and it can be academic levels, interventions and supports, or behavioral interventions of supports. Tier 1, when we talk about tier 1, we're referring really to just general classroom instructional practices. So the supports that every single student gets in the classroom. The things that our classroom teachers are trying to help students show proficiency at learning standards or meet classroom expectations from a behavioral standpoint. Then when we get to tier 2 and 3, we start to specialize. It's much smaller groups of students who aren't responding to the things that the classroom teacher's doing. We have more targeted interventions. So we're going to work to define those, but we're talking about our improving our district-wide tier 1 general classroom practices so that we can help students meet their social, emotional, and behavioral expectations of each of our learning communities. So then you'll see our goal, and then we have some quantifiable measures of that, which I will be providing information and updates on a quarterly basis. So I'll be coming back to you with data around what we've done as part of this plan, and if we're working on meeting our goals of having fewer exclusionary disciplinary actions, which means behaviors resulting in out of school, in school suspensions. And then if we are, increasing our students' academic proficiency because they are engaged in the classroom and they're meeting classroom expectations. So we'll be looking at that tied to academic achievement as well. So we have our some summer work. I think we're talking about that a little bit later in the agenda. But one of our summer work committees, which is a stakeholder group made up of different representatives, different facets of our learning community throughout the district. We'll be working on that multi-level system of support, or MLSS. Part of that will be a behavioral component. So that work will start in July. And then as a follow-up to Katie Tennyson's behavior audits this school year, she will be coming and conducting a leadership summit in August. So our building leaders, our behavior interventionists for those buildings that we have those in, our school counselors, our deans of students, the people that are most directly working with students who are demonstrating challenging behaviors, to really talk about how we are implementing that multi-level system of support, giving teams a time to work together so they can think about the different nuances in their own buildings and learning communities, and then how we will address our approach to intervention for students that are struggling to meet expectations in the building. So it gives the team participants. We'll have a data review system that will come of that work. We will also develop professional development. So each of our professional development days will have a component where we are providing strategies and supports directly for teachers for addressing challenging behaviors, and that team will work to develop that plan. Then we have shared with the board that we are incredibly fortunate to have Brian Mendler come and speak to our district. This is an opportunity that's absolutely incredible. Talk about relationship building, again, those tier 1 classroom strategies, de-escalation strategies for students, how to recognize when students are escalating to the point so we can be proactive and prevent classroom disruptions, those kinds of things. And then Brian will be back on October 3rd and 4th to support directly in classrooms and work with our building leadership teams again. I also wanted to mention that I met with another CESA 7 representative today, Heidi Siebert, who is our special education director for CESA 7. Her team will be putting on a paraprofessional training, a full day training on that October 4th staff development day. And then coming back to do a follow-up training on the 27th of January on that staff development day. So again, providing direct support and training for our paraprofessionals. There'll be kind of 2 branches of that training, one for very new people to the profession, 2 years or less, and then a version of the training that gets more in depth for our paraprofessionals who have been in the biz for a few years longer. And then Katie will provide monthly check-ins. So the 3rd Thursday of every month, September through June, she'll be here in our buildings working with teams. And then we also we have invested in, a component of the Crisis Prevention Institute's, program called verbal de-escalation strategies. So every staff in the MPSD, starting right post-COVID, was trained in verbal de-escalation strategies. It's a component of our nonviolent crisis intervention training. It's just the component that doesn't involve how to safely restrain or seclude a student in the event that that's the need. So the new component is a little bit more cost effective. It actually is shorter for implementation, and it allows us to train more people to be trainers, and it's called reframing behavior. So reframing behavior, again, focuses on de-escalating challenging behaviors, relationship building, implementing instructional best practices in the classroom, and then structuring a highly productive classroom environment, again, to minimize those disruptions so kids can be at their best and learn at high levels and achieve at high levels. So that's our year-long at-a-glance plan. We will devote specific time during professional development days to support our teachers. And then we'll have these other supports through 6 and 7, and when that routine.
So will there be a document that?
Yeah, we'll have ongoing data that we can pull to share with the group, and we'll do that on a quarterly basis unless people want more or less.
Okay. Other questions?
How close are we to having data, comparative data, year over year for behaviors and incidents?
We have that, we had, some of that was shared as part of that pupil non-discrimination work. So that was part of that document, is we had to compare some longitudinal data from the last few years in regard to suspensions, types of behaviors, whether it's physical altercations or drug-related incidents or those kinds of things.
So should we get more regular reports then, moving into next year on that? I think that would be helpful, just to kind of.
We can do that through committee. And then how often would you want, like quarterly when we talk about this, would that be
Yeah,
sufficient?
I think that would be good.
Okay.
At least quarterly, I think would be good for the whole board to get a pulse on it. I mean, because, before now, it's really just kind of like anecdotally, right? People are saying.
Well, I'd like to see, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see sort of what methodologies are being applied, so.
We'll talk about the
And
PD.
then see, the reports on disruptive behavior to measure whether those methods are actually working and improving things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, Chris was next.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, first, let me say I really like this plan. And everybody knows what a crank I am about behavior. So, let me tell you what I really like. I really like that we're gonna continue the audits. And that we're going to hopefully hear how it's really going. Because I can tell you why every behavior plan the district has ever tried has failed. And that is because everybody self-reports. And if you think you're gonna get people to come to another building and say, my building is a zoo, nobody's gonna say that. Everybody goes, it's going great. And the other person was gonna say, geez, I'm really struggling with this. Now they're completely stumped. So it takes the first person to not say how it's really going to stop everybody from saying how it's really going. So I really like that. And the second thing I really like is everybody learning de-escalation techniques. And the reason that's critical is because children are beautiful, they're lovely, they're adorable. That's why they put them in commercials all the time with their bright beaming faces, but they're also relatively manipulative. So if they can tell that they are pushing your button, they're gonna push your button. And as soon as they get your button pushed, you escalate, which justifies them escalating. And suddenly the whole control of that relationship has flipped over and somebody's winning and it isn't you. And if we can get everybody to go, hang on, it's not about you. When the kid says that, they want you to flip. Don't fall for it. Go, hold on, let's bring this back to common sense. So I really appreciate those two things, and I look forward to seeing how this goes. I really do.
There's a great team that's been working on this behind the scenes. I just need to report it out, so.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, go ahead.
So just correct me if I'm wrong, any one of you, because I'm just trying to summarize this. So we're going to pay these individual companies or these people to come in to give professional development, to support our teachers more and our staff, to get them trained up so that we can address tier one in-class problems to make them better, hopefully, and then we're gonna get reports back to the board or to your administrative teams about the results of those efforts and the monies that went towards that training. Is that correct to this point?
Mostly, we contract with CISA 7,
CISA
but that's why we contract with them, so that they provide staff to help us provide staff development.
Okay, and then I like how Chris added about the actual reporting of internally, like, nobody wants to talk bad about how bad their facility's going until it becomes a crisis, and it's socially acceptable to say that it's a crisis. But understandably, I understand why there's flaws in the system in the past. And then is this a K-8 program?
K-12.
Okay, because you said in the beginning of the whole thing, you said she only got to the, K-8 to do some research. Now I'm gonna move into facts, reality of, I got a phone call last week. And this is pertaining to this, so I just want to be clear about, this is the question. So I had a father call me on a Thursday and said his freshman daughter is leaving school, and she's outside at Lincoln High School, and she's with a group of friends, and they looked on her phone to find the mother had seen that on 360 as an app that they can find out that their daughter wasn't in school. And this is an involved family, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Phipps, what can you do to help this girl stay in class? And I really would like you to close campus down, because we've been worried about our daughter, and somebody's gonna get hurt eventually." And I said, "Well, sorry to hear that, sir, and nice to know that you're involved in your daughter's future." And he said, "Well, she got a truancy fine, but they haven't given it to her at all whatsoever. So they don't know what's going on, and they would like, some support in how we can eliminate this problem of, essentially being truant and then not being enforced that they were truant, especially at a freshman level." Now, I understand for a senior or junior, you kind of start using different tactics to, about graduation and such like that. But if we're having this gap at the freshman level at Lincoln High School of students, leaving campus in the middle of the day and then not being held accountable, there's other students looking at those students outside saying, "Why aren't they in class?" It's just creating a snowball effect of problems. And this wasn't a removed family. This was an integrated family of trying to help. And they were obviously must have been new to the area, because obviously Lincoln's been an open campus for many, many years. But he was very concerned, and I'm very concerned about reducing freedom for the safety of everyone by closing campus. So I really like campus being open, but however, I understand that his daughter wasn't in class, and he hasn't been getting support from the administration of why his daughter isn't in school. So I asked this directors right now, "Hey, what are we doing to try to reduce that? Or what can I tell that parent right now?" Because he called me in the middle of the day when I was working, and I wanted to give him an answer, and I tried to. But is there something and I said, "Hey, did you talk to the principal through the channels?" And they said, "Yes, but we haven't got any, she hasn't been classified in the tier yet," or whatever it was, that the support wasn't there, or we weren't meeting the needs of her at the moment. So what can we say to that? Or what can I say to this parent?
The only time campus is open is during lunchtime, so.
I understand campus being open, but obviously a student can walk out the doors at any
Yep,
point in time.
students, we absolutely cannot lock students in those.
I didn't say to lock it.
I know, I'm just saying to give responses to parents. I mean, what they need to understand is that building has 73 entrances or something along those lines. And we put those systems of support for attendance and truancy in place because, a lot of times a fine, which is kind of the ultimate, you get a truancy fine, does not necessarily fix the behavior for students. So, many times we have families that are unable to pay that fine. Many times it does nothing but, accumulate for a student who turns 18. So our city attorney actually and our SRO team developed a long time ago a community-wide commitment and support plan for truancy. So what happens is a student is issued a truancy ticket and they have 45 days to pay back that ticket essentially without actually getting the ticket or paying the fine. So for every positive day of attendance, they earn $11 and some odd cents in order to pay back their fine, because the whole goal is to have kids be in school because they need to learn and all the things. So, you know, what I would encourage parents to do, I think, is, you know,
Well, they're at work, so, you know.
right, but we, you know, the difficulty is we can't chase kids out of school, like find every kid that leaves that campus.
No, there was a group of six students, freshmen,
Mhm.
yeah, on campus in the middle of the day, not in class. And that's what he told me through the phone, obviously. So what I'm saying is, I understand their strategy about the SRORs enforcing with truancy fines and then giving them a reward system to reduce the costs. But we're creating a culture that is not asking them or demanding them to be responsible for their own actions. So what else can we do, or what are we doing, or what is the plan? Or what plan do we need to develop that we don't have this happen to freshman students? Because obviously it's gonna get worse if it's at a freshman level.
But this is what this is all about, right?
Well, and I did not hear nothing
Not all
about
of
freshman
it,
students and
but,
how we're gonna
yeah.
keep them from being truant.
Boy, I wouldn't know how to respond to that either, Matt.
Well, I would have several suggestions. One would be that, in particular with the parent who's concerned, in the moment, I would have them call the school to get a hold of an administrator or the school resource officer or a school counselor, whoever is available, to address the problem at hand, which is, my kid's right outside, they're not in school, can someone go and address that? That would be a number one, what I would tell them to do. The second thing would be to have a conversation with a member of the administrative team about the concerns that they have. Clearly, the student is having a hard time with some freedoms that they may be choosing to have versus what their parents would want. Many, many, many times over the course of being a building administrator for 12 years, I had those conversations with parents, and it always ended with me saying, what can I do to help? And usually what that means is taking away some of those freedoms for that particular student who isn't able to follow the tier 1 approach, which is, hey folks, you can leave at lunch, but you have to be back in time. These kids are clearly not figuring that out. So there needs to be some type of an intervention to that. Generally speaking, what I would do in a situation like that is I'd say, well, you can't even handle the open time that you have, which is your free time at lunch to leave campus. We're gonna close your campus for everything, which means you're not allowed to leave without permission of a parent. So like there's things that we could do like that are just everyday problem-solving things that principals, counselors, our support staff does with kids to fix these types of issues. Now, systematically, I would say freshman truancy is a huge problem because you have to be in school to learn. So what I can tell you, and I don't know how it has changed since a year ago, but
Obviously.
we had like tiers in place. So if a kid missed 5 classes that were unexcused, they went on a tiered list of, hey, these kids are skipping class. So we have to do something about that. First step is we call home and make sure parents are in the loop. Make sure we're on the same page as the parents. Monitoring 1,450 kids, you kind of do it on a spreadsheet. It lags about a week behind, but you are always getting up-to-date information about each student and where they're at. So what we do then is they go up to the next tier. It's probably a meeting with the counselor and the student and the parent to come up with a plan for creating short-term goals around their attendance. And then obviously with some types of consequences if they're not put into place. So these would just be some things that I would suggest based off my experience with.
Thank you very much. Is that a directive to the administration level at Lincoln High School right now? Do you have that in place for the administration at Lincoln High School?
Well, there's a system in place, yes.
because that's what I completely understand with your process of making sense and it being common sense. It just, obviously, it must not be happening that particular way where the parent wasn't, obviously, because they had enough tenacity or a courage to call me and ask for clarification. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Lee, if I understand it correctly, didn't the high school have a truancy goal this year or you know, and, you know, in terms of trying to manage it by data? And my understanding was, I thought we made some substantial improvement.
Absolutely.
So whether, you know, it's difficult to always identify an individual, you know, I think, you know, there was trying to track the accomplishments of improving that for all kids.
I have utmost confidence that we are probably doing that. It's just it was kind of interesting that I got a hyperbole that somebody called me last week to voice their concerns. So it's fine. I understand. I'm just telling what's going on. Why I got a call, I don't know, but I thank him and maybe we can work on it continually. But I understand there's always going to be outliers, but they felt like calling me last week. So that's what happened.
And if we want to talk offline and I can get a name and, you know, I can be helpful in connecting them to.
Sure. Thank you.
I'd like to say that, you know, I'm really pleased to see this development here. I mean, we've kicked this around a lot in the last 3-4 years. And I'm really feeling that we're moving forward on this now. And I appreciate that as a board member.
And if I may just add my 2 cents, the key thing for me that I see in this plan is a very stark contrast of being proactive versus reactive,
Right.
which we've been quite reactive in this area.
Thank you.
Do we need to take that?
You're looking to recommend this?
Nope, it's just information.
Just an
This is
information.
just information, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good, proactive, good job.
Youth Service Professional Development Plan. That must be Heidi's,
That's me.
yeah.
This is also just information. We just want to keep you guys in the loop on what's coming up. This time last summer, we were all getting started and it's very different. It's very exciting to already have August planned. So
Yeah,
our plan for in-service week is pretty standard, really. We've got our kickoff on opening day. It's very exciting that you've heard quite a few times of, but Brian Mendler is coming. And so to have a keynote presenter talking about something so important right now, which is
Yep.
behavior, is exciting. Staff always have time to work in their buildings on building priorities and then also getting their learning environments ready. Department meetings will be happening, and then we have time with families. Elementaries have their meet and greet time with parents, and then we also have our transition day for incoming new students. So it's pretty typical. The thing that's really exciting to me on here is those 2 extra days that you gave us in August, the week prior, for our elementary staff to come in and get their training on the writing curriculum and the science curriculum. So we're very excited to be prepared. Any questions on any of that?
No questions, just statement. I know the teachers, I know this sounds absurd, the teachers are going to be thrilled to be asked to come in 2 days earlier rather than getting it handed to them in the afternoon of the first day or the morning of the second day. To get this stuff a week earlier so that they can spend their weekend reading it over and figuring out the questions they have. And thanks to you guys and thanks to them.
I have here a out-of-state travel request.
We're gonna do teacher week first.
There's a couple more before
I
that
have
one.
a couple more.
Oh, yeah,
Should
yeah.
I just do all 3?
Well,
first?
yeah. And, okay, go ahead.
So the next one is New Teacher Week, just to give you a little update on that, August 12th through 16. It's a full 5-day week for them. We did just put out a survey to this year's brand new teachers and mentors of those teachers. And based on those survey results, they gave us some suggestions on some changes we could make for the coming year, and some changes that we could make for new teacher week. But just so you know, that's a really collaborative effort. We have a scheduled meeting next week with the Human Resource Office, Business Office, Technology, Student Services. We're all coming together to try to really, with that staff retention piece, try to really put on a great new teacher week for our new staff. Okay, and then lastly,
Summer work teams, yeah.
summer work teams.
Yep.
This summer, we have a lot of work planned. We got a lot of staff on board. Our committees for this work are anywhere from 10 to 13 people. And we're still trying to recruit just a few more classroom teachers, but we have our Act 20 committee that's coming together to work on that individual reading plan. Katie already talked about that multi-level system of support from the perspective of behavior, but we also want to have that in place for students that have needs, academic needs, as well as attendance concerns. And then an actual attendance team. One of the things that we really lacked in my time here in Manitowoc is a real concrete, like, this is what we're expecting for attendance. This is what we're expecting from parents. This is what we're expecting from students, and to have that be consistent across the district. And then our last team is that community connections team that will be working with, trying to create partnerships with our local businesses to support our schools. Busy summer.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people, yeah, in motion.
You're gonna give,
And, you know, a testament to the district and the great folks we have here. We had over 60 people sign up to volunteer to work or be part of these committees. So, you know, it was great for us because what we were able to do is take all the interested people and then try to spread out the talent and make sure that we have a diverse group of educators on each of these committees that can offer the insights necessary to put great plans to move forward in these areas.
thank you for saying that, because I was about to ask. Are we giving out candy bars to people who get on the truancy one? Because nobody likes doing truancy.
We had quite a few people
Well,
sign
we're
up for
gonna,
that
when
one.
we're really trying to, you know, you gotta do the positive side of that too, so.
Yeah, I know, I
Not
understand.
just the
Find
carrot
a way to
ones.
do it.
Thank you.
So the travel request involves the training of new people on the Success for All.
We have 2 new principals joining our
Two new
team.
principals, yeah.
They will basically participate in the same training that all of our principals and some solutions teams, folks and district administrators
Right.
were part of last year. It's the New Leaders Conference. It's in Baltimore. These funds dedicated to getting our 2 new principals trained and ready to facilitate SFA in their buildings comes to $7,090 and is going to be taken out of our Title II allocation for next year.
I make a motion to approve the out-of-paid travel to Baltimore for the administrators that are new and for the SFA training.
Okay, second? Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. No?
Yep.
Oh, okay,
You didn't let me ask my questions, so I'm voting no.
sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm okay with the vote.
Okay, all right. So then we've already looked at these books.
Yeah,
And we
so-
already talked about these.
Yeah,
And
so
they've
as you
been
recall-
out and, you know, accessible.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, we, in our April meeting, we had those and, the board sent them for public review. We have that cycle completed and are recommending these textbooks be approved for use next year and purchase in July.
Okay, is there a motion for that? Move to approve? Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just want to work on trying to get a digital copy to the community, because obviously, the waiting period of 30 days at district office, obviously is limiting for individuals that are obviously not accessible to this building. And the day and age we live in, technology, I think it should be quite clear that community members have a digital
I
version
suppose.
with
Good idea.
redaction,
That's a good idea.
just so that we can get clear content.
The hard part is I've tried this.
I just need to put it on record.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the publishers, right, that are
Yes.
making that.
So the issue we run into, and I'll just explain this, is publishers are happy to give us some samples.
Yeah.
Because they want us to take a look at things and be comfortable and happy with what we're gonna get. They're even happy to let us kind of like try stuff out with our feedback and things that they can use also in return. When it comes to like unfettered access that may be able to be taken and
Copied.
given to others or copied, they get real sensitive about that because, you know, that's kind of how they make their money. So,
Yeah, well,
you
it's
know,
gonna.
I'm gonna search, Matt, for a way to do that, and I have, and maybe some publishers have figured it out. And what I would say is with our Amplify stuff, that was done very well because we were able to give it out as they made the package for us to say, hey, you know, you're not gonna get the book, but here are some things you could share with your families. And it made it a lot easier. So, you know, those are the types of
The
ways.
system was shown and
Yes.
anybody with internet access could see
Correct.
how that science curriculum was going to be
The
introduced.
high school textbooks are the real problem. Those integrated curriculums at elementary, middle, they tend to have those resources where you have a little bit easier access to. These are the tough ones because the actual texts are the text and, you know, they're, you know, for example, the 3 out of 4 resources that you're approving are actual textbooks, not online things. One of the 4 is online things and is something that our folks could check out. So, noted, and we'll keep working for a solution on that.
Obviously, nothing will change unless we stop giving them money.
Oh, yeah, well, that's, yeah. Okay, anything else for the go to the order?
Did you vote on textbook adoption?
Oh, we didn't vote on, no, that's right, okay. I've been here.
Yeah,
Too long to-
yeah, right.
Is there a motion to approve the textbooks, to recommend to the,
We don't.
okay,
Second it.
We have a motion and a
And a
second.
second, yeah.
So these are, we're putting them all together, right?
Yeah.
And just to clarify, all of these have been out for 30 days, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one question I had, for that AP Psych, it was like 16,000 for 100 books or something?
Yeah.
And I was just curious if that's consistent with the enrollment that we have in that. I'm assuming it is, but I just thought I would ask. It seemed like they're kind of pricey for textbooks, but.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is, and with AP books, you're gonna get that a little bit, and I think one of the bottom line dollar amount on that, Tony, is the fact that the AP Psych course is our highest enrollment course.
Yeah.
In our social studies AP offering. So just as an example, if you're taking a look at that comparatively to the AP government class, which runs only one section of kids, I believe our AP sections are 2 to 3 sections, which means more kids, which means more text. I will say overall, we came in under budget in our social studies high school adoption. We had, I forget the total amount that we had set aside for that, but we're coming in well underneath that overall in that line item.
Do you still do it? No, you wouldn't know this question, but obviously you could check out the AP Psych book instead of assigning every student. Say you have multiple sections, and maybe having the classroom and then a student being able to check it out instead of having 70 books.
We
What is the
typically,
policy?
yeah, so we typically, it is very typical for classroom sets of books to be the primary way we deliver the instruction. So I can tell you firsthand, as I was a social studies teacher, I had class sets for history. I had class sets for my poli-sci class. However, for my AP class, and you'll note this, is you had your own. And the reason for that is it's quite a heavy bit of reading and relying on the text as opposed to the text being a supplement in most of those other courses. So we really leave it up to the recommendation of that AP course instructor as to what best way. So some of our AP instructors will say, yeah, I only need a class set, that's fine. Others will say, you know, I really gotta have every kid have one of these. But what we do then is we do issue them and collect them, and if they are not brought back, there is a assigned value to these books that students are fined for if they do not return them.
Yeah, we're on the same spirit of what we're
Yeah.
trying to talk. Just saying, instead of buying 120 books of the
Yeah,
course.
we're only buying for the number of kids who are signed up for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it, obviously books get republished, but
Correct.
hopefully they'll have them for a decade, but I don't know if that's.
Well, the last ones we had for over, well, nearly a quarter of a century, so I think
Really?
we're due.
Holy. Okay, I'll call, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of recommending the approval of these textbooks to the full board, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, all in favor?
I'm just glad we're gonna have books that don't have the Y2K bug in.
Thank you, everyone.
Back when I was in high school.
Because what I was going to question was, is there no way for two people that we can do this right? They're saying